Hello, everyone, and thank you once again for joining me on today's episode in my series of video under Microsoft and Azure security series. So let's take a deep dive. Today, that is Microsoft Purview. Let me give you a scenario. A financial analyst at your organization download a quarterly earnings report, containing confidential customer data. She needs to share it with external auditor, so she email it from her personal Gmail account because it's faster than going through the corporate process. No malicious intent, no threat actor involved, no phishing email, just an email, just an employee taking a shortcut. That email just violated your GDPR. It bypassed your data classification policy. It created a disclosure risk. And without the right tooling, you find out 3 weeks later when the auditor mentioned it on a call. That is the problem Microsoft Purview exists to solve. Welcome to my video series. Once again, my name is John Kayode. People call me John K. And this, like I said, this is another episode of my series of video on Microsoft and Azure security series. So today, Microsoft Purview, I'm going to walk you through the actual program at purview.microsoft.com. As it looks right now, no assumption, no guesswork. What you see on the screen is what you will see when you open it yourself. So I believe you already have my screen in front of you, and you can see that this is Microsoft Purview. You can see it's purview.microsoft.com. And you can, if you see here, you see all the solutions. There are many. So it's a lot of things in Microsoft Purview, and it's a very great tool. But if you look at it, there is a filter tab here. We have a core, we have risk, we have data, we have all of them like that. But what I'm going to do today is to take you through all of them and tell you what exactly the functionality and the capability they bring to your what I call your overall data security posture management. So let's do this. So when you open Purview in that location or in that address, the solution page organizes everything into 4 categories. There's a filter tab there. You see core, like I said, you see risk management, risk and compliance. You see data governance, you see data security. And there's something I want to just point out is the fact that a lot of them are powered by Copilot, that is AI capability. If you look at the discovery, it's powered by AI. If you look at communication, it's powered by AI. If you look at data loss, it's powered by AI. Power by AI, DSPM. A lot of them are powered by AI. It's just to tell you the place of AI in this particular set of toolings. So when it comes to licensing, you have to be very careful, because for me, the license I'm using right now is more or less like a trial version. So there are a lot of things that there are nuances that you have to look into there. So I'm going to licensing here because that is something I just want to call it out, that you have to check properly to know what you got and what you don't get and move on. For me, I will move on. So the first thing I want to look at is the core. So if you look at our core here, if I click on core, what do I see? I see audit, I see compliance alert, and I see settings. So under the core, I see, so we talk about audit. So audit here, this is it. So audit here is your historical record of everything that happened in your Microsoft 365 environment. Every user action, every admin change, every document access, every email sent, who did it, when, from what IP address, to what sources. So this is what you get here. Let's assume I've been using this to manage a lot of data. Then from here I can do my search. I can ask like, okay, the date it was happened, put some keywords, maybe look at some admin unit, talk about some activities, some record type, put it there, and I can search for it. I can get it, So that is what audit. It allows you to view historical record happenings that has taken place in that environment. So the business problem is simple. When something goes wrong, a security incident, a compliance investigation, a legal hold, or regulatory inquiry, you need to be able to answer questions. What happened and when? Without audit, you are investigating blind. So audit standard retained 90 days. That shows that everything here is retained for 90 days, as activity log covering the core activities types across Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, and Entra ID. That shows that this particular tool search, allows you to do that. You understand me now? So the audit allows you to do that. It's retained for 90 days, and those are the logs that you can query there. Teams, Entra ID, OneDrive, and SharePoint. So now, audit premium included in Office 365 E5 license extend retention to 365 days. So that shows that if you have E5 license, you can have it more than 90 days, 365 days, and add value activities type like mail like mail items access. So you have some other functionality added, which tell you exactly when a specific email item was read by someone other than the owner, and provide high bandwidth API access for exporting logs into Sentinel and some other SIM products. So if you want to get this additional functionality, then you should aim to extend your licensing to the right package. So Copilot is something I want to call out there. So Copilot activity in your tenant is something that is also edited here. So this is very important. So what prompt user are sending, what response they are receiving, what files Copilot access is now auditable through the audit solution. The AI activities tab in audit is how you prove what your AI tools did with your data. That is new. Yes, that is new. So you have to know that, okay, everything, the interaction of your Copilot, your agent that are using Copilot, they are also captured under this audit. That shows that audit activities include them already. So when I move back to this place and I say, explore all again, and I say call, what do I see? Compliance alert. So the next thing I want to talk about is compliance alert. So compliance alert is the centralized alert queue for all alert policies configured across your Purview solution. When a DLP policy fires, when an insider risk threshold is exceeded, when an activity policy in a cloud app security triggers, those alerts surface here in one place rather than requiring you to check each solution separately. It is your first look triage queue for compliance event before they escalate to full investigation. So everything, this is like a single point, pane of glass where all your alerts are consolidated. So it's that simple. Then I move on to the third one, which is risk and so I move on to the second tab, like risk and compliance. So when I take risk and compliance here, the reason risk and compliance here is the first one here is communication compliance. So it's also powered by Copilot, your AI. So communication compliance monitor your organization's communication, email, Teams messages, Viva Engage, and third-party platform for policy violation. So the scope is broader than most people expect. Financial services firms use it to monitor advisor communication as required by regulators. Healthcare organizations use it to catch HIPAA violation in clinical messaging. Legal team use it to dictate conflict of interest. HR and legal together use it to surface harassment, threatening language, and discriminatory content before it becomes a liability. In 2026, the Copilot integration changes how reviewers work. Instead of reading through flag messages manually, Copilot summarizes the content, explain why it was flagged, identify the specific policy that triggered, and suggest a recommended action. A review that previously took 15 minutes per item can be accomplished under 2 minutes with Copilot Assistant. So privacy is built in by design. How? Usernames are pseudonymized. So during policy review, you see the content but not the identity until you escalate to a formal case investigation. That is deliberate and important. This is compliance tool, not a surveillance tool. So that is a good thing here, that when events communications are flagged, you don't know who do that until it's becoming a liability and it's escalated for investigation. That is when the right person gets to know the actual person that do that, because the ID is the ID is pseudonymized, so you can't see that. So I move into compliance manager. So that this is okay. So I move into compliance manager. So compliance manager answer the question every regulated organization has to answer. Where do we stand, against our regulatory requirement, and what do we need to do to improve? So if you look at here, you will see that it's like a dashboard that show you, your compliance level. And from there, you know what you are doing right and what you need to improve. So if you look at the regulations here, there are many. You can see them. You can see ISO, PS, PCI DSS, EU, some EU regulatory, some Georgia, US state, a lot, Qatar, a lot. It's a lot of regulatory here. So it depends on what you are looking for, what you want to get, regulated about. So that is that. So the last time I regulated compliance, so communication compliance. The last time I did not show you that that compliance. You can create policy here. So this is how you do both solutions. Yeah. So it comes with over 350 regulatory assessment template I've showed you. HIPAA, ISO, controls and industry-specific framework for financial services, healthcare, government. You add an assessment. Compliance manager map it to specific controls and give you a score that reflects your current implementation status. The improvement actions are the operational core. Each unmet control surfaces as an action what needs to be done, who owns it, and what evidence is required. You assign it, you assign it to the person, and you assign it to an owner, track completion, upload your evidence, your compliance score updates as actions are completed. So that shows that as you know what needs to be done, as you know what has not been done, you assign it to the right person, and the person completed those tasks. Then you begin to see, how the rise of your compliance level. Your leadership dashboard shows regulatory posture at a glance. Your auditors get a structured evidence-packed package they can walk through directly. No more spreadsheet-based compliance tracking. So that is what compliance manager does. And if you look at it here, like I said, it's one of the risk compliance feature we have there. So what do we have? We go to eDiscovery. So eDiscovery is your legal hold and investigation platform. When your organization receives litigation hold notice, a regulatory subpoena, or to conduct an internal investigation, you need to find, preserve, collect, review, and produce relevant electronic data across your Microsoft 365 environment on a legal deadline. eDiscovery does that for you. So standard covers content search and basic case management. Premium, so here we are talking about licensing. So if you have a standard license, it covers content search and basic case management, but premium included in your Office 365 E5 adds the capability that large-scale legal matters require. Advanced collection with intelligence filtering, review sets where legal teams work through documents, apply privilege tags, and make responsiveness determinations. Analytic that surface near duplicates and email thread to reduce review volume. Custodial communication flow for legal hold notifications and acknowledgement. The Copilot integration here is significant. Copilot can summarize, review, set document, identify key themes across a case, surface potential responsive content, and draft privilege logs. Legal reviews that previously require weeks of attorney time is being compressed substantially. So that is what happened here. So you can start by creating a case. Call it maybe John case, and say create. So this is I've created one. So you can create a case, and from there you begin to enrich it with the right information, with the right stuff. So we go to information barrier. So now if you look at John case there, okay. So John case there, yeah. So you can create a search. You can put some settings on the case file there. Yeah, but my job is not today is not to go deep and begin to do some end-to-end deep dive and use cases. No, but it's just for us to know the capabilities and what they do and have a kind of a picture knowledge or mental and picture knowledge of it. So let me go back to solutions. Let me explore all. Let me go to risk and compliance. So I talk about eDiscovery. Then now I want to talk about information barriers. So information barrier restrict communication and collaboration between specific group or individual in your organization to prevent conflict of interest and protect sensitive information. So the primary use case is financial services, preventing communication between a banking division and its equity research team, because the two groups operating with shared information would violate regulatory requirements. But the use case extends to any organization where certain teams must not share information, like M&A, D teams, competing business units, legal matter teams, handling diverse parties. Or adverse parties. So you define segment, group of users defined by the department. Like when you want to define let's look at it. So information barrier. So this is information barrier. What you do here is the license. So go here, you see segments. So you can see segment here. You see I have a segment here. So from segment, you can create policy. So when you say create policy, this a policy you can create and say, okay, this is what I want. I want this team to be able to do this and this team not to be able to do this. So that is that. So you define segment, group of users defined by department, roles or attribute, and then define policies like I showed you. Policies that restrict which segment can communicate with which other segment through Teams, SharePoint, or OneDrive. So that is the workflow, around the barrier, communication barrier. So what you just do with communication barrier is to make sure that a particular set of teams cannot do some communication. So that's just that for regulatory reasons. So then I move to record management. So this is record management. Record management is the retention and disposition engine for your organization. Formal records, regulatory filings, legal document, financial records, contract, anything subject to mandatory retention requirement. This is where it's being done. when you have a kind of retention policy, a retention, obligation to fulfill, and you want to make sure that is properly regulated and properly automated. So the business problem, different record types have different retention obligation. A financial transaction record might need to be kept for 7 years. An employee's personal file for the duration of employees plus 5 years. A legal matter file until the status of limitation expire. Doing this manually across a large organization creates risk. Record deletion, deleted too early, created regulatory liabilities. Record kept too long, create unnecessary eDiscovery exposure. Record management automate this through retention labels and file plans. You define a label for each record type with its retention period and disposition action. Keep, delete, or trigger a review. Labels are applied to content manually or automatically through policies and trainable classifier. When a retention period expires, record management surfaces the content for disposition. Review automatically delete it based on your policy. The files plan gives you an auditable inventory of every record type in your organization, its retention schedule, its regulatory basis, and where it's applied. Something auditors and legal teams can interrogate directly. So that is what happened here in your record management. What it does is to help you just do retention management. How long do you want to keep this data? For what reason? When it's going out, what are we going to do? Is it deletion? Is it maybe archived to another another layer of storage? That is that. But basically it's a retention engine. And then I'll move to the next let's move to the next filter, and that is data governance. So under the data governance, we have data catalog and data lifecycle management. But let's do data catalog. Data catalog is your searchable inventory of data assets across organization. Data analysts find what data exists, what it means through business glossary terms, who owns it, how to request access. Data steward curate and maintain the quality of catalog entries. The goal is eliminating situation where a data analyst spends 3 days trying to find a data set they need, or where 5 different teams build 5 different versions of the same report because nobody knew the canonical data set existed. So that is what data catalog does. If you look at it here, so you can catalog you can do this over Microsoft Azure data capabilities or Microsoft Fabric. So, but bottom line is that it allows you to catalog the inventory of your data sets across the organization, and ownership and some other information. So in terms of licensing, you have to look into your licensing properly, because Purview account is you can get some by free license, and they are visible in settings. If you go to settings, you can see some of the nuances there. But if you want to do automatic scanning of your data sources like Azure SQL, ADLS, AWS S3 on-premises databases, at enterprise scale, you require to upgrade to a paid capacity account bill, at capacity. So what I'm saying is that data catalog, my license give you basic thing you need to work with. But if you want to scale, if you want to do more enterprise level, work with your data sources, then you have to upgrade to certain license. So I move to what I call data lifecycle management. So data lifecycle management, let me go back a bit. Data lifecycle management. So data lifecycle management handles the retention and deletion of everyday content in your Microsoft 365, email, Teams, messaging, SharePoint files, OneDrive document, as distinct from formal record managed through record management. So you can see their job is different. Okay. So you define retention policy in record management. Keep all the exchange email for 3 years, delete Teams message older than 1 year, retain, SharePoint content indefinitely unless deleted by the user, and apply them at scale across your tenant. Content that falls under a retention policy cannot be deleted before the period expires. Even if the user deleted it, it is preserved in a compliance hold in the background. This is your baseline data hygiene layer. Before you can have an effective DLP and eDiscovery, you need to know what content exists and how long you are obligated to keep them. So bottom line is that find a way to inventorize your data sources or your data classifications. Then make sure you define retention and how long you are going to keep them, and make sure there is a system in place to do that. So that is what we call it here, data catalog and data lifecycle management. So if I move to the other filter tab and I do data security, so I have a lot here. So it's a lot here. But now before I move further here, the first thing I want to deal with here is information protection. So let's look at it here. Information protection. So information protection is a classification engine. This is where you define your sensitive label, confidential, internal, public, highly confidential, and the protection action that travel with content when those labels are applied. So information protection is actually about labeling information or data as confidential, as informational, public. It's just a classification. Okay. Now that will follow that data. Labels are the foundation of everything else in data security section. DLP policies enforce rules based on labels. DSPM surfaces risk based on unlabeled sensitive content. Insider risk management will labels downgrade event as a risk signal. Without label, your data has no identity and your other policies have nothing to act on. Labels can be applied manually by a user automatically through trainable classifier pre-built models for over 300 sensitive information like patterns, include credit card numbers, passport numbers, healthcare identifier, and financial data. Auto-labeling policies scan your SharePoint, OneDrive, and exchange content and apply the appropriate label without user intervention. Once label a file carries that label forever, wherever it goes. The label can enforce encryption, restrict a permission, add a visual watermark, prevent external sharing, embed in the file, not dependent on the location or the application. Context Explorer show you every label items in your estate. Activity Explorer show you what is happening to those labels, to labeled content. Who accessed it? Who downgraded a label? Who shared it externally? For the first time, you have a complete picture of what is going on regarding your data, sensitive data lifecycle. So that is what information protection brings to you. If you look at here, you will see that information protection is here, but there is no meaningful thing we can do with it, like the labeling we talk about, but it's because the license I have doesn't have that functionality. But I just want to show you that this particular tooling exists here, and with the right licensing, you can do what the capability I just put to you or explain to you. So let me go back and see if I go back to data security. So that is information protection. So I go to data loss prevention. So, okay. So this is data loss prevention, and notice that is AI enabled. It has a Copilot capability. So DLP is the enforcement layer where information protection identify and label data. DLP control what can be done with it and intervene in real time when a policy is about to be violated. Microsoft 365 DLP covers email, Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Forms. Endpoint DLP extends the same policy logic to actions on Windows and Mac devices. USB copying, browser, upload, printing, pasting into non-approved applications. The Copilot integration here is new and important. DLP now applies to content shared with Copilot. If a user pastes confidential customer data into a Copilot prompt, a DLP policy can dictate that in a real time and intervene. Your data protection policies extend into the AI interaction layer, not just traditional sharing and transfer channel. Okay, the policy tips experience matter more than most people realize. When a user is about to violate a policy, Purview shows them a message in real time explaining what they are doing and why it is not allowed, and often gives them the option to provide a business justification. Most data leaks are not malicious, they are accidental. The policy tips catches accidental leaks before they happen. So this is DLP, and if you look at it here, you can view all devices if you have for your FDM, and you can go to policies. So you will see policies that applied. If you look at it here, I have policies for Office 365 DLP policy, protected sensitive disk Copilot interaction. You have this is for Office 365. This is for Copilot interaction, and this is for Teams. So you can see there are default policies that apply even as it were right now, and you can take advantage of that. You can create more policy, right? So you can create more policy. So that is that when it comes to DLP. Now let's go forward and go to insider risk management. Okay. So where is it? Okay, we have insider risk management here. Okay. So insider risk management dictates pattern of behavior over time that collectively indicate elevated risk. Even when no signal action triggered a DLP policy, Someone about to leave your organization start accessing SharePoint site they have never, visited before. They begin downloading large volume of files than their historical baseline. They email document to a personal account, no single action triggers, a DLP block, but the pattern combined with an HR termination signal is a clear insider risk indicator. Insider risk management build a risk score per user based on HR integration signal, Microsoft 365 activity patterns, and configurable risk indicators. It surfaces high-risk user for investigation with a complete evidence timeline. Every file they access, every email they send, every team message that matches policy, all in one case view. With Copilot integration, analysts can ask natural language questions about a case. Summarize this user activity over the last 30 days. What file did they access? What file did they access that are labeled confidential? Were there any anomalies, after our access pattern? And get synthesized answer rather than manually review raw activity log. So privacy control are building. Username are anonymized and in alert by default. Identity is only revealed when a formal investigation is opened by someone with the appropriate role. So now if you look at that, insider risk management is an engine that study a behavioral pattern of an employee or maybe whatever it is over a time whenever there are some risk signals, maybe it's terminated and what is now assessing is something that he has never done before. So it's kind of building like a case alongside, the usage and the behavior of that user, and be able to say, okay, watch out for this person before it gets too long. So this is where you can do that. I don't want to enable the trial requirement, but based on your license, you know what exactly you can use this tool for now. So I can go back to data security. So what is that thing that there's something I really want to talk about here? Yes. So let me do this before now. If you look at DSPM is a big thing. That is what we call data security posture management. It's more or less like the overall head of what we are discussing all along. But you see that we have DSPM for AI Classic here. We have a DSPM for Classic Edition. So these two, they are sunsetting. So I will not explain them because this is the new version of it, DSPM, like Central DSPM. So I will not ask the Classic Editions, they are sunsetting. I will not explain them. I will not do anything. But this is the new replacement. So DSPM. So what is DSPM? DSPM is unified posture view across your entire data security program. Instead of checking information protection for label coverage, then DLP for policy gaps, then IRM for risk trends separately, DSPM brings those signals together into one posture dashboard. It discovers where sensitive data lives across Microsoft 365, Azure, Microsoft, Fabrics, and integrated third-party SaaS platform. It surfaces the risk over exposed files, unlabeled sensitive content, data flowing into AI apps, users with access to more sensitive data than their role requires. And it connects each risk directly to the Purview solution that can address it. So the AI angle in DSPM is significant. It tracks what sensitive data flow into Copilot, prompt and agent interaction. It shows you whether employees are sharing financial data, customer PI, or confidential document in their Copilot session, and what the exposure risk of that activity is. So that is what DSPM does. And if you look at it here, it's supposed to show us, what is going on. And but the objective here is to show you the functionality, to expose you to the tooling, the capability, the business problem that is solved, and then we can take that. You can take that in your implementation. You can take it further. So, like I said, the classic edition of DSPM and the classic edition of DSPM for AI is sunsetting, and I don't need to talk about that. So I move to what I call a data security investigation. Data security investigation. Let me go back to what do we have? It's okay. This is the guy. It's also powered by AI as well. So what is this? Data security investigation. Okay, this is a solution I want to spend a moment on because it is new and important and gets very little coverage in Purview tutorials I saw, when I was researching for this. So data security investigation is the AI-powered investigation workflow for data security incident. When a DLP alert fires or an incident risk case escalated or DSPM surfaces a critical exposure, data security investigation is where you take the formal investigation action It leverages Copilot to identify, analyze, and mitigate risk in response to a data security incident. You scope the investigation to relevant custodian and data sources, collect evidence, run AI analysis across the collected content to identify what sensitive data was involved and who had access to it, and document your findings in a structured case record. Think of it as eDiscovery, but purpose-built for data security incidents rather than legal matters, where eDiscovery serves your legal team responding to subpoena data security investigations serve your security team responding to data breach or insider threat event. So that is what happened here. So if you look at it here, it's what brings to the table. Yeah. So I move back to, so now we are done with data security filter. Then if I go to resources, we have knowledge. So knowledge center. It's not a big deal. Knowledge is just Microsoft bringing documentation, resources for you, learning, Purview into your environment. And I love this because it kind of really helps you not to have a single place where you can just, access and have the knowledge of libraries or library of knowledge, sorry. So Knowledge Center is your important learning library, documentation, blogs, videos, and tutorial for every Purview solution. When you are setting up a new solution and want context guidance without leaving the portal, this is your starting point. So, and if you move further again, you go to usage preview, and that is the last one there. So usage preview is a new preview session that gives you analytic on how Purview itself is being used across your organization, which solutions are being actively configured, which policies are generating the most activity, where adoption is low. For a security architect, this is a program management view. It tells you where your investment in Purview is actually leading and where you need to drive more adoption or better configuration. So that is what you do here. If you look at it here, it's just for you to view what is going on. So but if you don't have data yet, you might not have anything like I have it. It's for you to know that, okay, this happens. This is where you know how Purview is being used, at what level, what are those things configured, what are those things that still need to be adopted or enabled and stuff like that. So this is where you get that. So now if you look at, if you go back to solutions, you look at explore all of them, you will see now that everything I have here, everything we have in this page is being explained. It's being explained. I take time, because these are the kind of content for me that I want. I want to have an idea of what is going on in a tooling, I want an end-to-end, explanation of that, because even if you want to use AI to help you do something, if you don't know the process, the end-to-end, points, the way things get connected and what they do, it's difficult. That shows you keep, asking, prompting your LLM in the wrong direction. So that's what I've done here. So before I tap out on this, I just want to say some things here. That let me call out the pattern we have seen running through this entire portal walkthrough, because it deserves to be said explicitly. Communication compliance is powered by Copilot, eDiscovery, Copilot, DLP, data security investigation, data security posture management, insider risk management, DSPM, all powered by Copilot. So 6 out of the 7 data security solutions, 2 of 5 risk and compliance solutions. That is not a feature flag. That is the platform direction. So the point I'm trying to make is that Microsoft has decided that security and compliance investigation work, triage, analysis, summarization, recommendation is where AI assistants deliver the highest return. The human analyst sets the policy. The human makes the final call, but Copilot does the heavy lifting of analysis, summarization, and evidence gathering that previously consumed most of the analyst time. So if you are planning a Purview deployment, now or in future, you are not thinking about Copilot licensing, and you are not thinking about Copilot licensing as part of your conversation, I think you are planning for a previous version of the platform. So my advice is that with what we have now, you must plan for Copilot license to take full advantage of this suite. So 3 takeaways I want to put out here. 1, Purview.microsoft.com is now the single destination for all Purview solutions. Number 2, your Office 365 E5 covers the compliance data security solution fully. The governance tier is separate from free account that you already have, but if you don't have it, try to upgrade. Then the third one is start with information protection. Label your data first. Every other solution in the portal becomes more effective when your data has been identified. DLP has something to enforce. DSPM, data security posture management, has something to measure. Insider risk has something to flag. Classification is the foundation. Everything else build on it. So that is the capability. That is what you get with the Microsoft Purview. So when you find yourself, if you are a security engineer and your function is working very much on data security or security posture management or every other thing around that within your product security, team or organization, looking into Purview, is a very important thing, because this tool delivers a lot of value that you don't need to reinvent the way. So once again, thank you for joining me on this edition of my Microsoft and Azure security series. This is for Purview, Microsoft Purview, and is a data security and posture management tooling. Once again, my name is John Kayode Yabisi. Thank you for joining me. See you in the next one.